Welcome back. Welcome after the break. We are going to listen now to a one-man band in the person of Bob Kolasky. He will draw our attention to the securing of election infrastructure. It is of absolutely fundamental importance that the decisions of such large masses of people, nations, are not tampered with and are credible. Otherwise, internal actors could easily impact the lives of societies through adversarial, a word we're going to hear a lot in these 2 days, means, and reroute them to absolutely different tracks that their societies have chosen to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, Assistant Director at National Risk Management Center of the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Bob Kolasky.
Hi, this is Bob Kolasky. I'm an Assistant Director at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and I run the National Risk Management Center. Thanks for having me here today, and I'm eager to talk to you about our approach to securing America's election infrastructure. As participants in this conference know, there's almost nothing that's more important for governance as much as having the ability to have trust in the process by which our leaders are selected. In democracies, that process is through elections in the voting process. And too frequently in past years, we are seeing interest from our adversaries to try to attack democracies through trying to use cyber and other hybrid means to go after election infrastructure and the process by which our citizens select our leaders and vote. And, we in the United States are focused very heavily on ensuring that the voters, their election, the integrity of our election, the safety of our election, the security of our election, and making sure that our citizens have the ability to select our leaders. And to do that, one of the things that is a priority of the Department of Homeland Security, and frankly, the whole national security apparatus of the U.S. government, is to make sure our elections are as secure as they possibly can be from cyber attacks and other influence. And so, what I really wanted to do today is sort of lay out how we're approaching this. As most of you know, we are 40 days or less than that away from our presidential election, our congressional legislative elections, and we are at the point now where it is really time, and we've made a lot of progress in securing our elections. It's really time to make sure we're working fully across government and with our industry and with the American people to have a secure election. This is a really important issue in general. It becomes a really important and even more challenging issue in the face of the COVID pandemic that we're all living through, unfortunately, right now globally. And the fact that, voting in a lot of ways is going to look a little bit different than it did in past years because of certain precautions and certain practices that have to be put in place to mitigate any spread of the pandemic, spread of the disease associated with voting. So, this is something that we're working really hard at. I think, the message I want to sort of give to this audience is talk about sort of what our approach is. And our approach really comes down to 4 key areas. One is building partnerships. Number 2 is sharing information. Number 3 is taking smart steps to reduce cyber vulnerabilities and any other vulnerabilities that are out there. And 4 is communicating clearly with the electorate and others on the importance of what's being done and to give them faith that our elections are going to be secure. So I'll touch briefly on each of those 4 areas. So partnerships, as many of you know, it's sort of the whole way that we get to a more secure cyber ecosystem is through partnerships. In the United States, we talk a lot about public-private partnerships across levels of government, making sure the government works efficiently together to do things to support cyber means. And so when it comes to elections, it's really, it's been an interesting partnership that's really spread it out up since 2016, where we've had to, on the fly, remake the relationship between election administrators. In our country, those election administrators are principally at the state and local government level, and the national security community, which is really led out of a federal level. And so, what we've done in terms of partnerships is establish the ability for the national security community to come in and support our state and local election officials, the vendors who they buy services from, with more tools so that they can make election systems secure. It's these partnerships, and partnerships, of course, are built off the idea of trust, a shared purpose, understanding each other's language, and a way to work together. It's these partnerships that really enabled us to make progress. We've used some of the authorities we have across the government to secure critical infrastructure, to have industry, government, all levels of government work together. We've used that around election infrastructure, and we've built strong partnerships so that we can deliver federal support to the states and localities that are conducting elections. So partnerships has been key. The second area, of course, whenever you're talking about cyber risk, is around information sharing. And here, with information sharing, what I am talking about is having the ability to quickly ascertain if anything is happening in a cyber system, anything that's happening in the election system that could be a sign of a cyber attack, cyber incident, related vulnerability, and getting that information in the hands not only of the system owner who can do something to mitigate against that attack or incident or vulnerability, but the whole community as a whole, because one vulnerability or one potential incident in one jurisdiction could be going across multiple jurisdictions. And so having the ability to share information quickly in a timely fashion that's generated from seeing and understanding what's going on in systems is important. And then connecting that with intelligence collection, other work, law enforcement investigations, other work that the government's doing to try to suss out what adversaries are doing. And so we built information sharing processes. The principal mechanism by which we do this is something called the Elections Information Sharing Analysis Center, the EISAC. We have over 3,500 members in the EISAC who regularly share information. This is a way that we're also bringing in lessons learned from overseas and in other elections where adversaries may be looking to exploit the election process and do things via cyber means. So information sharing has been key, building on the partnerships. The third area is actually making investments in more secure systems and reducing cyber vulnerabilities, understanding where vulnerabilities may lie in the systems, and doing things to close those vulnerabilities. We've assessed that for the most part, we believe it's extremely difficult at scale to attack the actual voting machines where votes happen in a way that adversaries would not be detected, but that there's more risk associated with voter registration databases and election management systems, where fundamentally are things that start with connections to the internet and then cross over to more controlled systems. And so managing the vulnerabilities associated with internet touching parts of the infrastructure, and how the internet touching parts of the infrastructure then transfer over to the more closed system is an area we put a lot of focus in. This takes some investment, and over time, we've seen an increase in kind of best practices that are understood about how to manage risk to these systems, and push the message that you need to invest in cyber knowledge, cybersecurity, more secure systems. Make this part of your procurement process when you buy things from equipment. So taking steps to manage cyber vulnerabilities is the third area. And then the fourth area that you always have to emphasize when you're talking about election security is communications. Because if you think about it, ultimately, the point of an election is not just for the voters to give their preference through the democratic processes. It's also for the electorate and the citizenry as a whole to have confidence that our leaders are legitimate and our leaders represent the will of the people. And so what we need to spend time doing is defeat the notion that there's anything that causes us not to have trust in the results of our elections, in the way that the election was conducted, and that foreign adversaries have no ability to change the will of the electorate. So we're communicating through that. We're top of mind thinking about that. A simple way that we're talking is American voters get to decide American elections. And I think that's true for any other country, representatives of any other country who's listening here. Your citizenry gets to decide who wins the election. So that's an important message to get out. We have seen and continue to see activity from the Russian government, the Chinese government, the Iranian government to try to undermine the confidence in our voting processes. That has to stop. That's not legitimate. We will push back. We will push back on false narratives that are out there on social media and using things like bots and trolls to push false information out there. We're actively in the process. We use the partnerships of which I was talking about to bring together different levels of government and civil societies so that we can emphasize the importance of this, the messages that need to get out, and give confidence that, again, that our elections are secure, that they're resilient to any changes that will happen because of the COVID pandemic, and that our electorate should have faith that foreign adversaries are not going to have the ability to undermine the will of our citizenry. So that's how I think about it. That's what we're trying to do here in the United States. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency really sits at the forefront of our efforts to support in doing that, but of course it's a team effort. I know that many of your countries are dealing with similar issues. Unfortunately, the same countries, and particularly the Russian government, sees this as an area for rife exploitation of like by the Western countries, and we want to make sure that we're a team internationally to push on the norms that again, it is illegitimate to go after our election infrastructure. So thank you for having me. I appreciate having the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, and good luck with the rest of the conference. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may have now a short technical break. In the meantime, Bob, I'd love to thank you for all the information you've shared about protecting the democratic choices and making sure, let me quote you, that foreign adversaries have no way to influence the decisions of our citizens. With that being said so clearly, #Protect2020 will now be a clear signal to us.